Hey guys, I have a bunch of different vases and I have a bunch of different flowers and some foliage. Now, as a lot of you may already know, not every vase is suitable for every flower type or flower arrangement. So with the selection of vases I have, I'm going to show you what flowers I would put in, and hopefully that'll give you an idea with your own vases at home, or maybe you'll go and grab something that's similar to any of the vases that I have here in order to get the results that you want. So everyone has their different preferences for vases, I'm sure. My favorite one to have a generic one on hand is something along the lines of this vase here. But the reason why it's a good generic vase to have, in my opinion, is triangular shape, and that's, in my opinion, a good vase to have. So when your flowers sit in here, the top will rest on this edge here, and the rest of the flowers will have room to spread the stems out and let your arrangement sit nicer. Whereas if you had a big arrangement in something like this, it will constrict your stems, and even though your stems will fit in there, it'll change the shape of your arrangement. I personally feel that when you squish your flowers too tight, then they start to get old quicker, they start to get moldy quicker, there's just no room to breathe. So this is a good vase to have too, but I'll show you how to use this one, and I'll also show you how to use this one. I don't have any arrangements made up, but you'll still get the idea. And if you just think of a triangle, then that should help you when you look at, you know, obviously if I were to look at this, that does not have a triangular shape. This doesn't have a triangular shape. So that's just one little piece of advice. I have about 7 vases, 6 vases in one jar actually. And I'll go through each one that I have, and then I will individually pick them and some flowers just to show you what I mean. These vases I have aren't very big ones, but it won't be hard to translate the size to either smaller or bigger. You'll be able to use the principles no matter what the height of your vases are, but it is about the shape, and it definitely is about the size of them, but I can get into that. So the first one I'm going to show you is just a cylindrical vase. It's kind of medium sized. And there's this interesting vase, and I'll show you how you can use this. So just because there is a vase that I think is a good generic one to have, and you'll have a lot of success with your arrangements or garden flowers or anything like that, doesn't mean you can't use cool vases. But yeah, I'll show you how I would use this. Then there's the good old jam jar, more cylindrical vase. It's not only tall, but it's also doesn't have a very big diameter or opening. Then there's this vase, which is a pretty okay vase to have. I like to use this one a lot. Not quite the triangular shape, but one that I do use often. There's my favorite one to use. And then there's this one that's kind of like a fish bowl, or also can be known as a rose bowl. Okay, so the first vase I'm going to start with is this long cylindrical vase. This one is really good for flowers that have long stems and you want to keep the height. So I'm not going to put water in any of these vases because I'm going to be flicking back and forth between flowers. So I've got some Sweet William here. So I would just put these in a vase, with this vase with water. And I've been able to keep the length. And as I change the water and cut the stems every 2 days or so, I will have to change this vase because obviously the flowers are going to lose its length. So Sweet William are good for it. And even some spray Chrissies. Now you could cut it down. In fact, I'll show you. You can get even longer, taller vases. So if I cut them down, yeah, they're just, it's a simple, no fuss vase, really. You don't have to have a ton of flowers in there, you know, that looks fine. It can also be good for if you want a big moment up here. So I've got some dried baby's breath. So it's got a big bushy head, and I actually could have brought in more to really emphasize the top. Yeah, they are really good for straight stems and, you know, dried flowers. Even got some misty here. This is also dried. Just plonk it in, cut it down if you want, but if you had even 4 more bunches of this en masse, it just will look really pretty. You can do dried flowers, you can do fresh flowers. I mean, here's some fresh flowers, some long stemmed roses. You know, that's so pretty, just even that simple. But I would say dry flowers more so, because with fresh flowers you're gonna have to keep cutting them down. So you could do one of these, just one, or you could add a couple. And they're a simple design vase, and that's what I like using these for. You could put a bunch of wheat in there, bunny tails, and yeah. The next vase I'll show you is this vase here. It's kind of a bit like a funnel shaped vase. This one is a good one to use as well, because it does at the bottom have that sort of triangular shape. The thing that will get in the way is this top bit, or can get in the way, but yeah, it's still pretty good. This vase is a great alternative to this bigger vase, you know, because it's got the same idea down the bottom, which is really handy, but it's good for simple arrangements, maybe flowers that you've pulled from the garden, and even if you've got any greenery or dry, I've just got some dry greenery. Like so. And the fact that this vase has this opening up the top, it just means that your flowers can sit loose. Whereas with this one, they will sit in their arrangement more. Like this one's really good for an arrangement, whereas this one is really good for loose flowers or foliage, just like these roses that you just want to plonk into a vase and not really do anything to them, and they're just as beautiful. So that's that vase. And this I just pulled from my garden, and because of the constant rain, it's sort of dropping. So that's what that looks like. Yeah, having bigger heads, it just allows the arrangement to breathe a little better. The stems fall in nicer. Like I said, because of that shape, they are able to sit in comfortably. This vase is also good for if you were to make a little posy and bunch these together. And depending on the height that you have your stems, they should just sit in real nice. And yeah, it's another no fuss vase, a good one to have on hand if you're just getting a bunch of flowers or getting a posy. This is what I like to use this for. So it's a smaller vase. Okay, the next vase I will do is this cool flat, it's obviously 3D, but cool, was that squarish? I don't know. Vase. Yeah, it's not a usual vase to use, but it's a very cool and handy one to have. I think it's good for statement pieces and for not so much an arrangement, but one type of flower. So just a bunch of flowers. So I'll show you what I mean, like tulips, anything that has a long stem and of the one flower type, even hydrangea. You would just stick them in this with water, and their stems will hug to one side and kind of lean on that one side. And what can I do? I'll even show you some of these roses. Yeah, so you put it onto one side and you would just arrange it however you want, even that with some water. It's so pretty. I would be very happy with that. I believe it's a statement piece vase. So if you've got anything, anyone coming over for dinner or something like that, and you've just got flowers at home in your garden or anything like that, you can just grab some roses or tulips or hydrangea, and I just, you know, that's so pretty. So this is what I would use this vase for. Yeah, anything with a long stem and that you like, because I was going to say big heads, but tulips don't have big heads, and they seem to manage beautifully in a vase like this. Yeah, or you can even have it standing this vase. It's not my favorite vase to have. It's definitely good for florists with different types of arrangements that we do, but it is a more difficult vase to use, and the bigger they get, the wider they get, and the more flowers these types of vases actually need. It's really good for big-headed flowers and flowers en masse. I'm just getting them, not really putting too much thought into it. Now I'll get my vase to measure the height, and I'm gonna really sink. And that's what this is good for. I wouldn't say it's good for any arrangement that you've been gifted unless the heads are big, because you need the flowers to be able to sit in onto this rim here. So big-headed flowers that can be placed into your vase, into this particular vase, and not be affected by the wide hole. You know, it's got to look nice. Like these look great in this because they've got a big head, and so they take up the space outside of the vase, which is kind of what you want. You don't really want something, any vase to suck your flowers in or make it look like it's just the wrong fit. It's got to look good. So bigger heads like your hydrangeas are excellent for these vases because of the amount of space they take up, and that they droop over the vase a bit, and you don't want the vase to be the center of the show, the center of attention. You want the flowers to, and the vase is just the thing that's going to hold them into place. So yeah, this is what this one's good for. As I said, is a good, handy, generic vase to have on hand. This one I feel like you can use for all kinds of arrangements, whether that's gifted arrangements or just bunches of flowers. Anything that requires the stems to be spiraled, and by spiraled I mean, well, they all go in the one direction basically. So for anything with spiraled stems, so you can use, again, big-headed flowers in this, but see how the spiraled stems just, and the flowers just sit comfortably in it, and the spiraled stems have the room. The other thing I was going to say about this particular vase and all the other vases is the height does matter. So you need to cut down your flowers to the appropriate height. For example, this rose, even though it can look good in here, it will start to bend because there's no support with the rose. And so that bigger vase, cylindrical vase, would be perfect for this because it gets the support up and along the stem. Also really good for foliage, so you can just cut some foliage down, dry or fresh. With dry, you don't need to clean the ends of the stem. I normally do, but with fresh, you do need to make sure there's no water, no flowers or foliage in the lower half of the vase. Yeah, so you can fit these in, and it does, the different vases do change the shape of the arrangement as well, but I just think this vase, because it has that triangular shape, it will hold. And if you can get something with a smaller rim, So if it goes in a bit smaller and juts out wider than this, then that's better too for arrangements that have a bind on it, because it'll comfortably sit the flowers in and then let the stems breathe a bit more. I think everyone should have a mason jar or a spare jam jar or anything like that, because they're just really versatile, and you can get good use out of these, and you don't have to spend a fortune on a vase. So a few things I like to put in mason jars, and that can be just single stem roses. I would cut it down to a good length, making sure there's no water that'll get into there's no leaves that'll get into the water, because it'll just make everything go murky. But they're a really simple but effective, they smell good. It's really any flower can go into this, as long as it's, you know, the flowers are the right height for it and the right head shape. I mean, you could even put, I say hydrangea a lot because they have such a big head. But you could even put just of the same flower type. You can keep adding to it. Yeah, I just think everyone should have a jar. You always want the flowers to sort of sit on that rim. It just doesn't look nice if it's, yeah, it just looks ill-fitted. But if you had it all covered, that's fine. To the required height. Done. Little posy with bind in a jar. The shape of them is just really good. Really, it's not the same as the other. It's not the same as this, because you got a little, it comes in a bit. I might even cut it down, show you, because these won't change at all. Yep, perfect. Vase that I'm going to use is this fish bowl or rose bowl, whatever you want to call it. Not the easiest to use, not my favorite to use, but it can look really beautiful. So again, you do sort of want the flowers to drape over the bowl so that you can get some interesting shape, because it's round. If you don't get it right, it can look odd. It can look like a ball on the bottom and a ball on top. So there are flowers that are really good for this, but like hydrangea, roses, anything that's got a big flower head that also has some greenery, just to break it up a bit. But yeah, so I would add some more here, maybe even not, but it kind of hides the shape of the ball a bit in a way that's appealing, because it actually does make the flowers look nice having the ball. Like, it's not too bad. Yeah, you definitely want to be mindful of the flowers that you choose to put in this. Roses go nicely in it as well. Rose bowl, and you can have many roses in this. you'd be surprised at how much flowers they can fit in. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, so I only got 5, but I can add more at the back, I can lengthen them. But I'm trying to make the vase small looking and let the flowers sort of drape over and yeah, be the center of attention, be the stars of the show. Yeah, gorgeous. So it's still good.